Well, he is the heartbeat of the UCLA fan base, and he played a pivotal role in Bruin basketball's majestic run into the Final Four last season. He is a celebrity, and I don't know how I got on his schedule, knowing how busy this guy is and how wanted he is by his peers and everything that he is doing. It is Ryan Gesas. He is joining us now. He is a super fan with UCLA, and your notoriety, Ryan, blew up during the NCAA tournament when athletic director Martin Jarman brought you on and you were looking for some tickets, and all of a sudden you hit stardom. And we'll get into your story here. But looking back now, during those 2 weeks when you were attending all those NCAA tournament games, how has your life changed forever?
Well, I mean, you said it. I've always been a diehard Bruin fan. I think I went to my first game when I was just 1 year old. So, I mean, it was drilled into my household, into my entire family. Family dinners were always centered around a Bruin football, basketball game. It's just what I know. And you talk about those 2 weeks. I think before the first four, I may have had 200 something Twitter followers,
Wow.
and I think I'm pushing like 1,700 now. It's just crazy. I have the receipts. You go back to my earliest tweets in 2013, 12, when I was just 12 or 13 years old. I was still tweeting about the Bruins. I know there's a famous picture my friends always send me of me going crazy after a certain David Ware buzzer beater. But, maybe 2-3 likes on those tweets. Now it's like 100 something. I mean, everyone wants to hear from me. They're DMing me. It's just crazy. It's destiny. And I'm fortunate for a certain athletic director. I'll say that.
Yeah, and it seems like ever since he reached out back to you after you were looking to try to find ways to get tickets for that Michigan State game in the first four of this latest NCAA tournament, your relationship with him has grown. And of course, Ryan Gesas is with us. This is the On to Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio and UCLA. So how has your relationship grown with Martin? I saw you guys met this summer before you went back out to school. I'm sure you guys will be seeing each other again when you get some time off from college as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Martin is he's the greatest guy. He doesn't, maybe a past athletic director may have not been on Twitter at that exact moment and giving tickets to not even a Bruin student, but a diehard Bruin fan. But I mean, I'll text him, I texted him after the Villanova game, like, let's go. Just, at this point, we're friends. But yeah, he made sure that we saw each other before I went back to school. He made that a promise. He wanted to link up. I'd never seen him in LA. We'd only spent time in the state of Indiana. So that was nice, walking around campus with him back in August. But I mean, I think I can proudly say that I may be seeing him in Las Vegas pretty soon.
Let's go.
Yeah, so you guys got the scoop here.
Yes.
I'm on Twitter later on, but I think that's when the reunion will be. Yeah.
Oh, I think Bruin fans are going to be very excited to learn about that and to hear about that. I see a lot of similarities between you and Martin as far as your energy and your positivity. Where did all that come from for you? It's one thing to be a fan, but it's one thing to be as eccentric, as vibrant, and as optimistic and as just energetic as you are. That's totally different.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I think I've always been a pretty positive person. I think you can ask friends, family. I always try to look at the positive side of things. But as far as my positivity around, UCLA goes, they've given me so much. I mean, my entire life, I mean, it's like a childhood thing where I would watch it with my family, and it just created such special times. All the Final Four runs when I was 5 or 6 years old, back-to-back years in the Final Four. It's the reason I love basketball. So I think it's so easy for me to, be at Indiana, and obviously they've got quite a historic basketball thing going on here, but my heart and soul is back in Westwood, and it's easy for me to kind of still be a fan here, especially after last March.
Ryan Gesas is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. Let's go back to March. So you get the win against Michigan State. And again, your story and your stardom, perhaps it's nowhere near what it is now if UCLA doesn't continue to win like they did. At what point, as you were watching and attending these games, did it ultimately at what point become surreal to you that this was something that was almost out of a dream?
I think it's that second game against BYU where, Martin says, are you in this section with a minute left to go in the game? He comes up and I'm like, it's really happening again. And it's going to happen again in the Sweet 16. And I'll never forget the moment where right after that Michigan State game, we're celebrating, we're hugging, whatever. And he looks at me and he says, you're coming to the next game. And at that moment, I'm like, this is, I had to tell myself throughout those 2 weeks that this is actually happening. I would have been, going crazy at home from the couch, watching all these games. The fact that I'm in the arena, a step further, I'm watching with the athletic director, celebrating with him after, texting with him after. Sometimes I still don't believe that it actually happened. I mean, it was just out of a movie, out of a dream, and all thanks to Martin Charman.
It is fate that this has happened, and I think you're going to have a lot of things to celebrate when it comes to this UCLA basketball team this season as well. But from that run, and of course there were wins against Abilene Christian and Alabama, and of course Michigan as well. When did you have the highest sense of, I guess, an adrenaline rush? When were you the most cheerful among any other moment in any of those games when you were there and you were attending these contests?
So I think the peak adrenaline came from that Alabama win. We looked like we were good. I was holding my buddy's arm, squeezing as they went down the court and hit that buzzer beater. And, that just goes like that. I mean, that when that shot went in, I instantly thought this whole run could be over. It could all be for naught. And then, David Singleton and those UCLA Bruins time, Martin comes up, and that's the moment where I'm going to the Final Four. I've never felt anything like it. Me and Martin were just going crazy. I don't even, those videos, they just happen, and whatever happens. And we were just hugging, and it was an emotional moment being a fan, for my entire life. And to see them, the mighty Bruins, the 11th ranked Bruins, the 11th seeded Bruins going to the Final Four. I mean, call it a Cinderella story. I think I believed it the entire way. You could check my bracket on that.
Yes, exactly. He's a man of his word. In seeing all this happen for you and your status and celebrity status grow, what Bruins reached out to you through this? I'm sure floods of people were in your DMs, or they were hitting you up on Twitter or Instagram. And what were some of the more surprising, moving, uplifting messages that you heard from, whether it's a fan, a season ticket holder, a former player? I'm sure you got buzz all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some key ones there. I think something that resonated with me the most were like fathers posting pictures or videos of their sons celebrating, maybe their 7-year-old sons. Because that was me watching Jordan Farmar and the Bruins, my grandparents making it to the final game. I mean, that was me. So that resonated with me a lot. Another special sort of moment, on this ride was meeting all the players' families. With the bubble, fans were kind of isolated from the players. It wasn't like you can go up to them after, talk with them. No, it was me, Martin, and all the families. So you've got the Kymans, the Stongs, the Bernards, all those families that, I met them at Purdue against Michigan State, and we spent the next 3 weeks together. So it was that sort of like, little league sort of, away from home. You're in like a basketball tournament, a baseball tournament, and you just have this downtime in between games. And after every game, we'd go up, celebrate, and it was just repeating and repeating. So those are some great moments. And then players, Russell Stong, we battled it out in high school a bunch of times. Crespi versus Calabasas, probably played him more than 10 times. So I knew him prior to this. But, even DMing him after the game saying, one more, we got this, one more. It felt like a dream, and it felt like I was part of the team, which if you were to tell me that beginning of March that I would be, so close communicating with the team, and it's just, I couldn't tell you that it would happen. Never in my wildest dreams.
Well, you put yourself out there. What was it like guarding Russell in high school?
Yeah, he's always a great shooter. I know he hit a 3 a couple nights ago, so I'm glad that solidified that. I can say that. But he was a knockdown shooter. Great defender too. I think he would always guard our top player. But yeah, those Crespi Calabasas battles, we probably split them 5-5. I mean, we've maybe even played more, but just a guy I always knew growing up in the Valley, hoops. We did play Jaime Jaquez twice also in high school. We split that 1-1. I think he may have dropped 40 points on us the first time we played. So his success is also not a surprise to me. But it's funny, me and my pals from the team, we can, retell the story of one of my best friends, Dean, guarding Jaime the entire game. And now we see him obviously on the court in Pauley, topping down Villanova. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Ryan Gesas is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. Where's the most random place you've been recognized?
So, this really, you call me a celebrity, and that's a generous word, but I think if I were to walk in Westwood in LA, I think, I wouldn't be too shocked if a couple people came up to me. But I go to school in Indiana, and that I'd like to address, because a lot of people have still been DMing me, are you going to be at the game tonight? Talking about UCLA. So I'm an Indiana student. I'm a senior, but as we know, diehard Bruin fan. So I'll put that out there to the guys asking me if I'm going to the game tonight. But I'll be back winter break. I think the craziest interaction, though, was a couple weeks ago. My friends are walking down Bloomington, and there's a guy who's probably 35 years old, and he just yells Gesas. And I look and I'm like, hey, how's it going? I've never seen this guy in my life. He's like, go Bruins. And I remember this. I said, what's your name? Who are you? And he said, it doesn't matter. And he kind of just walked away. And I was just like, that actually just happened. Bruin fans in Indiana, I guess. And it's pretty crazy that it's traveled this far.
Well, it's so cool because you were on television, all the time. They would pan into the crowd, and the television cameras would be spotlighting you, rightly so. What do you think Mick Cronin, after processing all this and looking back at that run, what do you think he would have said about you and your presence at those games?
He likes intensity. He likes defensive intensity, but I think he would have been proud of my intensity at those games. If you watch the Michigan State game back, that was the game with the least amount of fans. So anytime Michigan State was shooting free throws, I mean, you could hear my yells through the arena. So I think he would have been proud of that. And I think that game, they missed a ton of free throws, especially down the stretch. So I'm not taking credit for that, but had I not been there, I don't know if those shots go in. So I think he would have been proud of my intensity.
I bet you made a lot of free throws during your high school career.
Why do you say that? I'm 100% from the line. We don't need to say that it was 2 for 2, but
we don't have to include that.
Varsity Calabasas 2 for 2.
Look at you. Ryan Gesas is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. So here's my last question for you. As we get into this next season, and so far the team is playing well, always looking to improve, of course. But when you think about your role in the fan base, how much of a duty do you feel like representing the UCLA fan base as a whole, and for people to look at you, to live vicariously through you as far as your charisma and your energy and all that you do to grow up the program, whether it's whatever sport connected to the Bruins?
Yeah, I mean, I think about my last meetup with Martin in August, and one of the last things he told me was, he said, Geese, I need you to stay relevant. I need you to be active. The fans love you. I will promote your stuff. Keep being relevant. Keep talking Bruins online. And I mean, that's an easy task for me, for a fan to tweet during the games. And so I think that, but you said living vicariously through me. And that was another thing that was so touching to all these people that, they would message me over the tournament. Thank you for being there. Thank you for showing the love. We are living through you. I mean, that was a cool thing. I felt the weight of the Bruin fan base on my shoulders, and it was an easy weight to carry with all that love. And you talk about positivity. Well, I don't remember a time online on Twitter where Bruin fans were just so positive, so loving. I feel like people always can find something to be negative about and to complain about, but we're winning, we're having fun. Let's be positive. Let's enjoy the ride. And I think that was happening, last March.
Oh, you're such a great role model and figure for that, and why I wanted to bring you on, because you radiate that positivity, and the Bruin fan base is so fortunate to have you as part of the heartbeat of the fan base. Of course, Ryan Gesas, you can follow him on Twitter. It is GEESEYY. Add on to his Twitter followers. It is about to grow as this basketball season continues, and we see you at more of these games when you get some time off from school. The followers are going to continue to increase, and I don't know how. You probably won't have time for me next time we have this conversation. You'll be so booked, but
and I'll always have time. I'll always have time to come on.
You the man. So Ryan Gesas, I appreciate you, Superfan UCLA. We're going to see you at a couple big games coming up here as well, tied to Bruin basketball. I'm Bryan Fenley on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. Ryan, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks so much for having me on. I just had class. Wasn't too excited about that. This was exciting. Thanks.